What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Shop Mini RC. I'm Ken, and today we've got another awesome project. We got these new axles. These are the extended +4 Injoras. They're the wider axle housings. All right, guys, so one of the things I'm most excited in this little buggy build we're doing are these axles. These are the Injora +4 axles. Now, this is the axle housing is +4. It's not just the shafts. Of course, you can take your stock axles and add some +4 axle shafts and whatnot, but there are some issues that come with that. One of the issues that comes with that is your scrub radius. Well, the main issue, really, to be fair. Okay, your turning scrub radius or turning radius is where the outside of the wheel is turning in relation to the pivot point, right? So I just want to show you something as an example. So this wheel is a deep dish wheel. It's very deep. It has a very positive offset, which means it sits far away from the axle, right? The whole wheel is pushed outward. Versus this wheel, which is not so offset, sits inward, right? Okay, so ideally, again, this is general, there are exceptions to the rule sometimes, but you want your wheel or your tire to be as close to the pivot point as possible without rubbing and things of that nature. So that's going to give you less of a scrub when you turn. And the scrub is basically the movement of the wheel itself, moving back and forth. This also, the closer you have it, the better you're going to be able to tuck your wheel in or have less rubbing on the outside, like on your body, right? So this turns like this, right? So if you were to draw like a line here on the outside, that actual radius, you're going to see that it doesn't move. It's not that far, right? But if you offset the wheel, let's say you even had like plus axles on there, right? Your outside moves further, right? That's going to be more strain on your servo, more strain just on the entire setup, essentially. And it's going to mean that you're going to be more likely to hit the body as you're turning, okay? So if you had a short axle and then you had a bunch of extension after your knuckle pivot point, right? Say it was all the way out to here, I mean, that's crazy, but if it were, when you add those wheel hexes and wheel extension or hex extensions and so if you had +4 axles, +4 wheel extension or hex extension, and you're out to here, your turn scrub is going to be like this, right? Now, you may get better turn radius out of it a little bit, but it's going to be hitting on your body a lot more. You would rather push the entire axle all the way out and then have your tire and wheel much closer to the actual pivot point. That's generally a better way to do it. So that's the benefit of actual +4 axles, full axle housings that are wider. That's a big reason to get this sort of an axle setup. It's just, it gives you a wider stance without giving you a bunch of turn scrub. Another cool thing specifically about these +4 Injora axles is they come with a 13-tooth overdrive in the front, which means you have about 23% more speed in the front axle than you do the rear, which is really meant for, I wouldn't say hardcore, but climbing in general, right? You wouldn't really want to use that on a trailing rig because you may have binding and a little bit of hopping, or it's going to pull your rig downward because the front's moving faster than the back. So not ideal if you're going fast, but if you're crawling, it is the best setup. You definitely want overdrive on a slow crawler that's really trying to make hard lines. It pulls itself up, it keeps the body and chassis squatted down, and it's a huge help. If you haven't ran with overdrive in the front or underdrive in the rear, either way, you're missing out. It's a great benefit to any sort of, not even competitive, but just any sort of rock crawling at slow speeds. It also will help pull the front end around, so you'll get a much better turn radius by having overdrive in the front or underdrive in the rear. Again, you can do it either way. Now, these specifically have a 30-degree steering angle. They're available in a couple different colors as well. It's all aluminum. We may end up putting a brass diff cover on the front just to help get us that 60-40 weight distribution. I like the design of these though, but you do kind of want some extra weight. I believe you can use basically any stock SCX24 steering knuckles on this, which is awesome. So you can put some brass steering knuckles on there if you like. The rear gear is a 16-tooth, like I said, and the front's 13. The total weight of these guys is going to be right around 52 grams. The front's 31 and the rear is 21. And having that extra width, that extra +4 on the axle housing itself and the internal axle shafts means you're going to have better durability because it's designed to be wider, right? You'll be less likely to break your dog bones in there, and it's going to give you a lot more stability, Okay, side hilling and whatnot, getting that extra width will be a huge, huge benefit. That's why some of the larger rigs like the TRX4M, people say, well, they perform so much better out of the box. It's because they have larger wheelbases, right? That alone is going to make it a much better performer when you're talking about crawling on the rocks. So the wider wheelbase will be a huge help. Now, one thing to be aware of with the wider axle here, that means you have to use a special front steering link, right? You can't use the stock steering link. Luckily, this comes with it. You'll have to either make a custom one if you want to change it, or use the one that comes with it, obviously. We're going to use the one that comes with it. We really like this. It's got this kind of chamfered front, so you're less likely to grab, and it's got a cool light and design and whatnot. So we're going to use that, but you cannot use typical aftermarket steering links. Also, your axles inside are not going to work. You could probably even put +4s on these outside axles. They look like they're kind of just a standard C-cup, this axle here, so you can go even wider if you want to do another +4, and then another +4 with the hex extensions. You could have a total +12 if you really wanted to go nuts. But I think this is plenty. But the inside axle shafts, the actual dog bones and the axle shafts on the rear, those do not use standard SCX24 axles. You would have to get the Injora ones, and they do sell them just in case you end up breaking them. They do have replacement parts for those, so that is good for sure. And I wanted to show that they do come with the, these are aluminum hexes and your drive shaft pins or your axle pins, all your hardware. Here's all your steering link hardware, axle pins, wheel nuts, hexes, O-rings, all that good stuff comes with it. So you're pretty much ready to go with a full front and rear setup, and just throw it on your rig, get some extra width. So we got the front of our axle all assembled. I really like the chamfering here and kind of the design on the front that's got the kind of milled look. Pretty slick. One thing I wanted to point out, look, I don't know if you can see this on camera, but look at this. That's how little slop the front has. That is pretty awesome. And that's with the nut tied down pretty tight onto the hex, and but not so tight that there's binding, right? Like there's plenty, it's clearly not binding. And same with the rear, like zero binding. It is super loose, and there's like zero play. So I just wanted to show the extra stuff it came with. Basically, these screws are going to be used for our links, and these are for our servo tray. But all the rest of these screws, the ball joint, extra wheel nuts, axle pins, all this stuff, these might be for shocks. They look a little short, but they could be used for your shock mount. But all that stuff usually comes with extra screws. So all this, though, is extra that comes with these axles. And I really love it. I just want to shout out to Injora and say, awesome job, guys, on including extra wheel nuts and the axle pins, the O-rings, because sometimes O-rings, dry rot and break. Pretty sweet to include that extra stuff. Huge, huge, huge benefit. We love that. Anyway, we're going to get these put onto our build. And if you want to check out that build video when it's up, you can check it out over here. If it's not over there, it's not up yet. But I hope that this gave you some insight on the Injora +4 axles. We think they're going to be pretty awesome. I definitely am excited to use them. So make sure you guys like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell, and yeah, keep an eye out for our full build. We have got tons of builds coming. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell so that you know when those videos go up. All right, guys, get out there, build something awesome. Smash them, crash them, and bash them. Don't break the expensive parts. I'll see you next time.